Right, so we're being asked to solve here this cubic equation equal to 0, right? Now if it was a quadratic equation where the highest power is a 2, you do 2 brackets, wouldn't you? You factorize it maybe into 2 brackets, and then you can solve equals to 0. Now when it's a cubic, okay, you're going to have 3 brackets, okay, so we need to factorize essentially. So when you factorize this, we need to use the remainder theorem, if you remember. And what I usually do is I say, look, let f of x equals to this, 6x cubed minus 13x squared and plus 4. Okay, so notice there's no x term there, and that's okay. Sometimes they don't have one of the terms. That's alright, because essentially it's 0x, isn't it? Okay, 0x, and it's just not written down. So what we need to do, first of all, is find one of the factors, okay? And if we remember, finding one of the factors, we use the remainder theorem, yeah? And so with the remainder theorem, we'll just start off with x equals 1, for instance, and we'll substitute that into f. Okay, it's a good place to start, x equals 1. Substitute it into f, and we'll see what our result is. Now, if it equals to 0, we've found a factor. So if I do that there on my calculator, so, 6 times 1 cubed, take away 13 times 1 squared plus 4, it comes out to be minus 3. So it doesn't come out to be 0, so that's no good. So if 1 doesn't work, let's just check 2. X equals 2. So you sub that in. So what I can do then on my calculator, press the replay button, go back and change that to 2. And it comes out to be 0. Well, so if it comes out to be 0, we found a factor, right? And remember the remainder theorem, which basically says is if x minus a is a factor, then f of a is equal to 0, okay? So we can sort of work this theorem in reverse then. So because we've got now this equals to 0, in this case then, you've got f of 2 equals to 0, yeah? That means x minus 2 is a factor, yeah? Because that's what we found, isn't it? A is equal to 2 in this case, so x minus 2 will be our factor. And the other way I like to think about it as well is when we set our x values here, look, x equals 2, so you take that over the other side, you'll have x minus 2 equals 0, and you've got your factor there, and your x minus 2. But just remember that remainder factor theorem there. So that is a factor, right? So x minus 2 is a factor. Fantastic. If it didn't work, you could try x equals 3, and then what I would do then is, if that didn't work, try x equals minus 1 then, x equals minus 2. Usually one of those comes out, okay? So what we do then is, because we know x minus 2 is a factor, that's going to be part of our result, isn't it? Our 3 brackets, okay, x minus 2 is going to be one of them. The other 2 brackets I don't know. So what I'm going to do is, if you remember, write a quadratic here, okay, something x squared, something x, and a constant, because if I've got 2 brackets here, which to make up the 3 brackets, the 2 brackets here, when you multiply 2 brackets together, it gives you a quadratic, doesn't it? Now, the good thing is, I know what's going to go in front of that x squared. I know it's going to be 6, okay, because there's a 6 there. That always works like that, okay? Right, because ultimately, if you think about it, when you multiply all these out, you're going to have that times that, yeah? And that times that, it gives me 6x cubed then. Okay, so the number in front of the x squared is always that number there. Now, to work out what's in front of the x is a little trickier, and to work out the constant, again, you need to do a little bit of work. So I'll just write that as bx and c. So to work out the constant, all you've got to do is look what the constant is here. So the constant here is just plus 4, okay? And to get the constant on this side, think about how you'd expand and multiply out here. When you multiply out every term, most of them will have x's in, won't they? But the one that won't is when you multiply the lasts here, yeah? So minus 2 times c is minus 2c. Okay, so to get then c, what you do is you take that minus 2 over and divide, yeah? Okay, because you're timesing here, and take it over, divide, and you get minus 2 is what c will equal to. To get the b value, we'll look at what's in front of the x squared here. So you've got minus 13 here. To get x squared here, there's 2 ways, isn't there? You could multiply x by the bx, yeah? So x times bx is bx squared, so you'll get a b there in front of the x squared. And you could also multiply these two, couldn't you? Okay, so minus 2 times 6 is minus 12 x squared, so you get minus 12 there. So to get b then, quite simply, you'll just take that minus 12 over. This becomes a plus 12, so you get minus 1. So therefore, 6x cubed minus 13x squared plus 4, okay, will equal to x minus 2, 6x squared, b is minus 1, so b minus x, and c is minus 2. Okay, so all you've got to do then is factorise those two last brackets. Get two last brackets from here by factorising this. And, you know, whichever method you want to use to factorise, you know, the one we often use is this, isn't it? Because it's 6x, we write 6x in both brackets, okay? And the multiply add thing here. So remember, the multiply, it's got to be minus 12, isn't it, in this case? Because when there's a number in front of the x squared, you times that by the last number there. So 6 times minus 2 is minus 12. And it's got to add up then to give this number here, which is minus 1. Okay. And don't forget then, because we times by 6 there, to give you that, we kind of like, we've got to divide by 6 then. Okay, think of it as like paying back. So then, multiply to give minus 12, add up to give minus 1. Well, 4 and 3 will work, won't it? 4 and 3. Because you want to add up to minus 1, make that a minus and that a plus. So minus 4 plus 3. Okay, so then you get x minus 2. Now there's a common factor in there of 2. There's a common factor in there of 3. So they will then cancel them with that 6 here. Because 2 times 3 is 6. It cancels with the 6 on the bottom. So you get this. So then, to go back to the original question, which said solve, didn't it? They wanted us to solve this. You just use the brackets now. So you say, look, x minus 2, 3x minus 2, 2x plus 1 equals 0. So you say, look, either x minus 2 is 0, which means x is 2, or 3x minus 2 is 0, which means x is 2/3, or 2x plus 1 is 0, which means x is minus 1/2.